Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. We're in the City Council chambers. Yvonne, can you call roll?
Yes, and just as a reminder, please turn your mics on.
Oh, whoops.
No,
I got it. Just a reminder, please don't tell us.
Sure. George.
Here.
Buckles.
Present.
McElroy.
Here.
Hebert. Hodgins.
Here.
Houston.
Present.
Flynn.
Here. All right, let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. Chair will get us. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any additions or deletions, Yvonne? Or okay. I was going to talk about underneath the Hebert Plaza is a bridge, but I think just I can just talk about it under mayor council comments. I can just give a update. Okay, so public comment period. I have one card. Are there any others? Just the one. Okay. All right. So knows Joe. I know he knows how this works. But I'll go ahead and read the thing. Okay. So public comment portion of the agenda is the opportunity for the council to listen to the public, but not for dialogue. Public is allowed up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city. The topic or issue brought up may be referred by the council to the city manager for inclusion on a subsequent council agenda. Council has the discretion to ask questions after comments are concluded. Please note, complaints should first be addressed to the appropriate city department and or the city manager prior to directly addressing the council. Okay, Joe, do you want to come up?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Joe Neely, West Valley Transparency, Sheridan resident. The reason why I wanted to come up here was to talk about what I noticed and observed underneath the Hebert Memorial Plaza. I know it's going to be discussed soon. It's just that when I did the video, when I went down there, the only word I can say was disheartening. That's the only way I can describe it. I mean, I'm trying not to be angry about it. I'm just trying to looking for a solution, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like the city of Sheridan to look for a solution. I do know it's public property, and it gets a sticky area, very gray, because there's certain things you can do, things you cannot do, because it's public. And I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next we don't have a public hearing, so next we have Juliette's house, Colman, Crocker. Okay.
Hi, good evening, council. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Colman. I'm an educator with Juliette's House. We are the local child advocacy center and child abuse intervention center serving Yamhill County and surrounding areas. So as you might know, we were here last year. We dedicated April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month, so I'm excited to be doing that again and to tell you a little bit about who Juliette's House is, what the role is, and what our role is in the community, as well as to kind of talk about some of the events and things we have coming up in April to support that work. So at Juliette's House, we have a lot of different services. A lot of people primarily think of us because maybe they have involvement or a specific case in their past through the clinical services side. So we do offer clinical services. We have a team of very certified and uniquely qualified people to work with children who have experienced abuse and it's been appropriately reported and a case has been opened. They come in and go through what's called an assessment day. They might go through a medical exam. It's basically a child's checkup and wellness check-in, but they also then are in a comforting space where they can go through a forensic interview. That's a space where they can have their case and their experience well documented, appropriately ask questions, and so we make that as child-centered and comforting of a space as possible. And so they do fantastic work on the clinical services side to work towards abuse intervention. And then after that, we also have trauma recovery services. That's the therapeutic side of what we do. We want to meet anyone where they're at, whether it's children, teenagers, or adults who have experienced abuse. We want to meet them where they're at and provide them the right modality of therapy to recover and continue to grow beyond that. So both incredibly important areas of what we do, but I'm also here then to talk about the side of Juliette's House that I'm on, which is the prevention end of things. We believe that there are things that everyone can do at any level balance those upstream things that we can do. So we believe that there's things we can do as individuals. People can seek the help that they need to work on resilience and working through their emotions and their thoughts and feelings, but we also think there's things that everyone could do with their relationships, talking to their peers, their families, but also their children, appropriately educating and talking with children to make sure that they establish appropriate boundaries and effective communication. And then there's things that we could all be doing within our organizations to evaluate our practices and policies and procedures, make sure we're creating safe environments. That's very much something that Juliette's House wants to do with more youth serving organizations and just more communities at large, is to talk about what practices and policies really make safe spaces and safe environments for kids. And then at a communal and societal level, there's things we can all be doing that factor into prevention, just like helping people meet their basic needs. When people have things like housing and access to food and healthcare and transportation, childcare, all of those are extremely important in adding to the prevention efforts that we do. So if I could kind of boil it down to one specific thing that I think we really preach at Juliette's House, is to help us destigmatize this conversation. We fully understand that this isn't necessarily typical dinner table conversation that we expect people to have every night. But we do think it's very, very important to hold some kind of space to open up these conversations and have them with not only your children, which is very important, but also your peers. There's a big myth out there, and it's kind of the center of what I got in terms of safety education growing up, which is the stranger danger idea. And yeah, well, it's very important to talk to our kids about, knowing how to approach strangers if you ever have to, or how to avoid those things and not open the right doors for people you don't know, or be aware of people in these unmarked white vans or the person lurking in the bushes. Really detrimental to the conversation when that's what we solely focus on with our kids. Only 7% of cases with any sort of substantial evidence actually are perpetrated by strangers. The vast majority, 59%, are from acquaintances, so neighbors, family, friends, coaches, teachers, someone in their community who maybe they have a relationship with at some level who abuses that relationship. The other 34% are made up of family members, so parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, and those are the ones that are a lot harder to talk about. They do make that conversation hard. That's why we understand that it is a stigmatized topic, but it's that much more important than for us to be aware of how often abuse is happening and how it affects people, and how we can appropriately recognize and report those things, as well as prevent them before they ever happen. So that's a lot of what we do at Juliette's House. We have age-appropriate curriculum on the prevention team. We start at pre-K level. We're working with a lot of the Head Start programs. And then that's just talking about basic boundaries and how to use your voice and tell people no if you're uncomfortable. But then we talk about safety rules for kids to recognize and spot problematic behaviors and things that are potentially dangerous, how to make moves away from that, and then most importantly, how to identify safe adults and actually talk about it and use the right words to advocate for themselves and identify safe adults, multiple safe adults in their lives, so they always have someone to go to, somewhere that's safe. And then another thing that's extremely important is mentioning to kids that if someone does do something intentionally harmful, it's never their fault. There's no blame and no shame. They should feel like they can go talk to someone and tell them what has happened that can care for their safety. So we offer all these for children. We also offer team dating and healthy relationship curriculum. And then we have a lot of different areas where we want to talk to more adults. Again, we want to work with community partners, parents, teachers, anyone that works with and around kids, and even if you don't, to learn more about this issue and what we can do to prevent it. But starting by talking about it is extremely important. Currently, it's estimated that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 children experience some form of abuse before age 18. We see children who have experienced physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect at Juliette's House. We want to make sure that people understand that there are those differences, but none of them are easier or harder to work through. They're all wrong and they shouldn't happen because every child has the right to be safe. And so we want to make sure more of us can talk about that in a way that contributes to the conversation as opposed to pretending like it doesn't exist. Another thing that's really important to us and why we really, really appreciate the space to talk about it here in these small, close-knit communities is because these are often the spaces that are most underreported in terms of abuse, because even in my short time at Juliette's House, I have heard that this is a small, close-knit community that doesn't really happen here, whereas we really know it does. We see kids from all communities, and it doesn't happen in any one region or space or to any specific class or ethnicity, anything like that. So it's really important that we continue to talk about it, especially in these close-knit spaces. I also acknowledge that the recognition and reporting side of things, really important just to remind everyone whenever I can that you don't need proof to make a report. Oregon wants to provide certain protections for people making reports in good faith. Calling in that report is not something you would do directly to Juliette's house. That would go through law enforcement or the ODHS abuse reporting hotline, and then Juliette's house works with those cases after the fact. But we want to make sure people understand those signs of abuse, and it's important that people should know the vast majority of cases where abuse is happening don't tend to show physical signs. I think people typically think about those bruises and scratches without explanation, when really it's a lot more behavioral. When a child completely changes their behavior, their eating or sleeping habits, or makes concerning comments, it's that much more important to listen to those as opposed to purely looking for physical signs. So, of course, I want to launch into my whole 90-minute spiel and give you guys the entire training, but I really do hope that we continue to encourage people to take those trainings with us. We offer all of these for free. We want to talk a lot more about what we can all do to prevent these things. But in the meantime, I do want to tell you a little bit about what Juliette's house has coming up in April. So as usual, we are just ramping up our prevention efforts. We do have an open to all training every month, but we really would love to fill up Juliette's house on April 16th is an open to all training. I am going to leave some flyers here to kind of just show what we have going on, if that's all right. It has a QR code to more information about all services that Juliette's house offers. But April 16th is the open to all prevention training for adults. Every year we also make blue shirts for Wear Blue Fridays that are sold, and this year we did something a little bit different. We reached out to all of the K-5 schools and did a design competition. So a lot of kiddos submitted some really fun designs, and I believe a third grader from Dundee got her design selected, and so those shirts are being ordered and made now. I believe we'll have another week on that, but that tremendously helps us out. Those shirt sales for this week or for this month, upcoming here shortly. We encourage everyone, even if you don't buy those shirts, to wear blue on Fridays, especially if you do it all as a group. It kind of gets conversation started when someone asks what's up with the blue. That's not typically what we see for an entire group of people, so that helps us a bunch. We also have the Celebrate the Children big annual fundraiser, and it's a dinner and auction event that's coming up on April 25th, and I believe there are still tables open. And then finally, one other thing that we're trying this year is a social media push. We got a cool order through Newberg Glass Studio for these glass blown marbles that are some cool artwork that we're going to hide around each community that we serve around Yamhill County. We're going to hide them just out and about around town for one of our followers to find in the community. We'd love to post these pictures of the hidden artwork along with a video from a community leadership voice that could tell us a little bit about why child abuse prevention matters to them. Sheridan is one of those areas, one of, I think, 2 left that I don't currently have someone lined up to talk a little bit about that. So if anyone is interested, especially from the council or another leadership voice in the community you can connect us with, we really, really appreciate that, because your voice really helps us gain traction to this issue that is so important to us. So I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you again for the recognition of not just this month, but the work that we do year round at Juliette's house. Thank you.
Do you have signs again, or yard signs?
I'll be bringing some yard signs this next week. We're getting them printed right now.
Okay.
New ones.
Yes.
Okay, I have a proclamation to read. Oh, okay. So, a proclamation showing the city of Sheridan, Oregon's support of Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2025. Whereas child abuse is one of our nation's most serious public health problems, with scientific studies documenting the link between the abuse of children and a wide range of medical, emotional, psychological, and behavioral disorders. And whereas it is estimated that 1 in 4 children will suffer significant abuse before the age of 18, and in, I assume that's fiscal year, FFY, 2023, over 164,000 contacts were made to the Oregon Child Abuse Hotline. A total of 45,208 received reports were assigned for CPS assessment, and of all completed CPS assessments, 7,861 were founded for abuse, involving 11,191 victims. And whereas the physical, emotional, mental, and physical impact of abuse falls on children of all ages and abilities who come from economic, racial, and social backgrounds, and these crimes affect many more family members, friends, neighbors, and communities. And whereas effective child abuse prevention efforts succeed because of partnerships created among state and local government agencies, schools, diverse community groups, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community, while recognizing that feeling connected to the community can be a protective factor against child abuse. And whereas the city of Sheridan is dedicated to stopping child abuse, supporting survivors and their non-offending families, and working to prevent it through education, advocacy, and accessible family resources. And whereas each of us has a role to play in addressing the problem of child abuse by learning how to prevent, recognize, and report it, as well as supporting prevention, education, and empowerment programs for children and youth. Now, therefore, we, the city of Sheridan, do hereby proclaim April 2025 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month in Sheridan, Oregon. We reaffirm Sheridan's commitment to creating a safer, healthier, and more thriving community for our children by taking proactive steps to help prevent child abuse. These include promoting awareness, encouraging citizens to learn about the signs of child abuse and how to report suspected cases to the appropriate authorities. Investing in prevention, supporting programs and initiatives that provide family resources, parenting education, and early intervention services to at-risk families. Community involvement, participating in local events and promoting Wear Blue Fridays each week of April to show solidarity in preventing child abuse. Strengthening partnerships, collaborating with schools, local businesses, healthcare providers, and community organizations to create a united front against child abuse. Empowering action, providing free resources and training for citizens on recognizing and addressing child abuse through Juliette's House and similar organizations. Community members can learn more at juliette'shouse.org. Together, let us protect every child in our community and ensure their well-being by fostering a culture of safety, compassion, and accountability. I don't think I need to read that for the last part, but okay. All right, I'm just gonna. Okay. Now, our second presentation, we have Laura and Abisha here to talk about the West Valley Enterprise Zone.
Wait, I thought we had someone that signed up, someone else on the, public comment. Yeah.
No.
Nope.
No? Okay.
Sorry, that's
sorry,
okay,
I didn't
no,
mean to
that's
interrupt.
fine. Well, good evening, thank you, Mayor, councilors, and staff for letting us come before you to talk about the West Valley Enterprise Zone. Again, I'm Abisha Stone with SEDCOR, and I'll be co-presenting with Laura Conroy from the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. So the first part of this, I'm gonna be running through, making sure that you understand what the West Valley Enterprise Zone is and what it represents. We are here to make recommendation that you consider reinstating this zone, which is about to expire. And then I'll turn it over to Laura that will walk through the process with you. So a little bit of information first. I see that you have the part of the packet, many of you have it in your hand that has the map on it. That's where I'm gonna be starting. This zone was designated on June 23rd, 2015, and it's set to terminate on June 30th of this year. It is, as you can see on the map, covers all of the incorporated parts of the cities of Sheridan and Willamina. It's called the West Valley Enterprise Zone. Both of the cities are sponsors, and SEDCOR is the zone manager. A couple of features of this enterprise zone, you are considered a rural zone. You also have allowance for use for hotel and resorts, and you have an e-commerce incentive. And I'll dive into what exactly are these incentives and what does it mean anyway. So Oregon does have 73 enterprise zones. 56 of them are rural and 17 of them are urban. It's page 2 of this that docu-set there talks about the standard enterprise zone. So it's a place-based incentive. When a traded sector business, or in this case a hotel or resort, is making an investment in your community, in a meaningful investment in facility or equipment, they're entitled to a 3-year tax exemption for that new investment. Many people have questions about how this exemption works. the specifics around it, and I'll touch on a couple of them. If I miss anything, be sure to ask questions before I hand it over to Laura. But essentially what it is that when a business comes in, wants to make an investment, the tax base is frozen at the existing rate and continues to be paid. It's just that increased value that they get an exemption on for 3 years, okay? And so there is an allowance for the construction period of time. So when a project is in construction, that may, the start of that enterprise zone project might get delayed up to 2 years so that they have time to construct. The thought process here is that as businesses are making investments in equipment, there is a requirement to add staff. There are requirements around the staff compensation, right? So they need to be family wage jobs. The business has a chance to get that new asset working for them, generating revenue before they have to pay taxes on it, right? So they're already paying for the new staff, they're training people, they're paying the cost of that investment. It gives that just them some time to get that asset working. Because this incentive exists in your community as well, it's often an opportunity for those companies to invest at a higher level. So when they look at making an investment, they say, oh goodness, hey, we have this enterprise zone here. Since we're gonna get a tax exemption, it might actually encourage them to make a second phase investment sooner. So they might say, well, we're gonna phase out this investment over 2 or 3 years before they realize that they're gonna get the tax exemption. Once they get it, they often make that investment sooner, which benefits the community because then when it comes on the tax roll in 3 years, right, after the exemption period, it's at a higher rate. So that's what it's about, that's what it's for. I talked about who's eligible, traded sector businesses, and in your case, you also do have the allowance for hotels and resorts. You also have something unique in this zone in that you have the e-commerce zone, which allows businesses that do business online to exempt smaller investments. So if somebody is opening, for example, a bakery where they're selling to all different communities, maybe they're doing Saturday markets, maybe they sell online, home delivery cookies, things like that, they can actually exempt oftentimes their laptop, payment processing systems, things like that, that in a standard enterprise zone would be too small of an investment for them to exempt. So it is an incentive, especially it's a great one for rural communities because maybe they're, there's a lot of opportunity for them online where maybe there's not as much opportunity for them, face-to-face customer. Since you do have this one, I just wanna make sure that you're aware that if your enterprise zone were to expire and you weren't to renew it in time, you could get your enterprise zone back eventually. However, the e-commerce zone, those are limited by number. So if your enterprise zone expires, you would lose your e-commerce zone and you would have to get on a list to try to get that back. Okay, so that's a sensitive one I like to point out to folks. We talked about some eligibility. Again, there's a requirement to add staff. There is an opportunity as we go down that page for a 4th and 5th year exemption. Businesses can come before City Council and request an extension. So that 3-year tax exemption, so long as the investment qualifies, they're guaranteed, right? Because it's a place-based incentive, the place has already been designated. They're not guaranteed the 4th or 5th year. So in your rulemaking in the process, you get to come up with some rules, and Laura can share more detail, but we can talk about that in depth. Some of those rules might be that if a business asks for that 4th and 5th year and you want to consider granting it to them, that you ask them to contribute to a local career tech education center or some sort of youth workforce training program, right? So there's a lot of the communities do that. There's a couple of other things there, but basically it's a conversation. They would have to come before City Council and you would have to make that approval. All right, so that basically outlines the zone. Wanted to let you know that last week we went in front of the City of Willamina and presented the same thing to them, and they did vote to move forward with the reinstatement of the zone. We also talked to them, and I know that we've had a little bit of conversation with staff here about the process of zone boundary adjustment. So whenever a community is looking at reinstating their enterprise zone, they have an opportunity to determine whether they wanna change the zone boundary. That is an option. You can actually do it at any time. You don't have to do it during the time of your renewal. In this case, if you were to consider looking at opportunities for expanding or shrinking your zone boundary, we would actually make the recommendation that you do it after the reinstatement, because it currently terminates on June 30th, and it's already March 17th. So there is a process to get through the reinstatement. That adds to the process. The city of Willamina is interested potentially in considering a zone boundary change in the future, but has also heard our recommendation to consider waiting to do that until after the renewal is done. So that would be something we come back and talk to you about. I also pointed out that SEDCOR is currently the zone manager of the enterprise zone. Those conversations between SEDCOR, Sheridan, and Willamina, and Yamhill County started at the time when SEDCOR was coming on as a contract service provider at a county level. We still have remained your zone manager the last few years. We do not receive a fee for that. Also, the city does not currently charge a fee for applicants who might want to apply for this. You do currently, so in your process, you will also need to designate a zone manager. And we are open to that conversation with you, whatever that might look like. If you'd like to consider SEDCOR staying on, if you'd like to consider managing it yourself, if you'd like to consider a different manager, we are completely open to that conversation. Yes, Counselor.
Are we in association with Willamina, in this enterprise zone?
Yes, you are duly the sponsors. You and Willamina are both the sponsors. And so this process must be managed together in tandem.
Okay, that's what, so we would have the same manager managing both cities?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a zone management. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And so I think that last thing I was gonna say was in regards to your ability to charge a fee, right? You do have that ability. Again, these decisions would be made in partnership with the city of Willamina because you do share a zone. And I think that was it. Any questions about the zone before I turn it over to?
Yeah, well, Jim, you can go ahead.
Okay, I was just, excuse me, the city itself is the approving authority for this enterprise zone, is that correct?
The two cities are joint sponsors, correct? And so, the counties are partners that you would inform, but you are the decision-making
So back
parties.
in 2015, we probably should have done something at that point when this became available, was that, I'm just a little confused how our authority comes into all this.
So you currently have a zone that is in place, and you came together back then to make a joint decision about the zone boundaries, and about the manager, probably a few other things. And now we're back, having this conversation because it's about to terminate, because it has a 10-year lifespan. So, the process had been managed appropriately. There was no miss here. It's just it's a standard termination time period. Lastly, I did want to make sure you're aware that you currently have an active application in your community of a company that's making an investment. So you do have an application in process.
And I'll just real quick before Abisha finished, kind of what we're doing with the industrial zone, I think kind of goes hand in hand with the enterprise zone, and I think is an added benefit of anybody who wants to come into our industrial zone is that they'll have this as well. And I was gonna ask real quick, I'm assuming this would be something that would be done after this is reinstated, but I know you mentioned resorts and hotels. I don't know that we have any of those, or if we'll really be getting many in the future. Is that a focus that can be changed? Can we change the focus, or is that just kind of what we have available right now?
Okay, that's a good question. So, the enterprise zone is definitely a benefit for your community, right? When we are recruiting businesses, when we're talking to local businesses that are looking to expand, and if all things are equal and they're looking at two pieces of property, we'll make sure they're aware that if they land in Sheridan, they have access to an enterprise zone. The only other enterprise zone in Yamhill County is in the city of Hebert. they did decide to extend their zone. They also do allow for hotel and resort. It is limited to that, however, so, Mayor, when you're asking whether you have the ability to expand the types of businesses that can take advantage of this program, you guys have as much as you're allowed to have. So it's traded sector businesses, and it would be the hotel resort, and you have the e-commerce component as well. So you guys have the trifecta.
Or I just want to make sure that, you know, it wasn't like a list of options and we picked 3 of them. And,
No, yeah,
okay,
that's a fair question.
So we've got
That's a
all-
fair question.
And Willamina has the e-commerce option as well, right?
Yes, sir. The entire zone does.
Okay. And that includes, again, just the space of land between Willamina city limits and our city limits, right?
Right, the highway right down the road there. It just needs some connective tissue, which I know is a gross sort of analogy, but.
I think, I don't know enough about who's, you know, interested in that land, but I think it's an added, benefit if this is renewed, that there's 2 large pieces of land outside of both city limits. They're both, I think, 100 acres each. They're probably zoned, farm. I don't know if Kit knows or not, but, they're both for sale. One's like 200 some acres, the other one's I think over 100 acres.
Yeah.
And if somebody wanted to come in and that's an enterprise zone, they could have a pretty large, you know, operation there. But,
Well, current zoning and allowable use aside, so assuming that there could be an opportunity for a traded sector business to invest in future properties, this is why some communities might look at expanding their zone. This zone, like I said, does already encompass all of the cities of Sheridan and Willamina, but you could expand it beyond those boundaries. That would mean that you would be going into either or both Yamhill or Polk counties, right? Because Willamina is bifurcated by the county line. So if you were to do that and extend it, then you would potentially be bringing on other sponsors, which would be Yamhill County and or Polk County, which adds to sort of the sponsor list and might put you in a position of having a sponsor association. It's one of the reasons we're recommending that you delay conversations about expanding the zone until after the reinstatement, because it will add more time and process to include those partners in the discussion. But it is possible. Yes.
Liz, go ahead.
Was your hand already
No,
up?
go ahead.
Okay, so if it's Sheridan and Willamina that has the enterprise zone, but the tribe just built a recovery, hotel or, you know, housing, would they be eligible for it if they're in that zone?
That's a great question too. So tribes are actually have access to a completely different type of an enterprise zone designation, which is a tribal zone, and so that is it's completely separate from this. But they do have the
That's too
ability
bad,
to instate
really.
a tribal enterprise zone, they do.
Oh.
But it would not be in concert with yours.
Right now, these, the enterprise zones are within the city limits of Sheridan and Willamina. Can we expand it to the urban growth boundary?
Yes, sir, you can.
How soon, would you need, our approval, on this? And that could be a question, maybe a question for Laura too, but.
Well, I think we'll probably both answer the same way, with a very short timeline, absolutely as soon as possible.
Vote tonight.
That would be our preference, but.
That's what I was asking, because it wasn't on, but, okay, good enough.
I'll go ahead and turn it over to Lauren, who can talk a little bit about process.
Okay.
And what that would look like.
Thank you.
Good evening. You know me, but for the record, I'm Laura Conroy with the Midland Valley Council of Governments. All right, so assuming you've got all your questions answered about what an enterprise zone is, the question becomes, what's the process if we want to redesignate? And what's the process if we don't? If you don't, not much. You let it expire, and there's not a lot of steps to go through. If you do, however, as Abisha mentioned, this thing expires on June 30th. And so you have 3 short months to accomplish the following. First, you have to signal a desire to redesignate. Make a decision tonight would be ideal so that we can get to work. And what we need to get to work on is we need to send a notice to Business Oregon of your interest to redesignate. There's already been a staff meeting about that. They are aware, but we would need to say officially, we're going to do that. I have already emailed them and let them know that Willamina has decided to move forward, and COG is assisting Willamina with that process. Then we have to give notice to affected districts. So it's not just you that would be impacted by a property tax exemption, but any of your other partners in civil service. So let me tell you who we have to give notice to. Yamhill County, Polk County, Yamhill County Extension Service, Yamhill County Soil and Water, Willamina School District, Sheridan School District, Willamette Regional ESD, Polk Soil and Water, Polk Extension District, Sheridan Fire District, West Valley Fire District, Chemeketa Library, and Chemeketa Community College. So 13. And that notice has to look a certain way. That's prescribed by statute. Notice has to go to them, and then we have to host a consultation meeting. And that notice has to go to them 3 weeks before the consultation meeting. At that meeting, there's an agenda, there's a map of the zone, there's information about how zones function or what they are. And then it's an opportunity just to talk with our partners about how this exemption might impact them. You don't need their approval. You have to consult, and you have to consult within the time periods described, but you don't need their approval. Although you do need one agreement with the school district. So, assuming that consultation goes well, assuming that you want to redesignate, assume you meet the notice requirements, then you adopt a resolution that redesignates the enterprise zone. We package that with proof of notice, proof of consultation, and your resolution, and we submit that to the state for redesignation well before June 30th. Okay, that's your process. COG is happy to help with that. We're helping Willamina make sense for efficiencies just to help you as well. Questions for me on the process?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry. I was thinking I need to take a drink of water. What's the agreement with the school district?
Yeah, so in your packet, let's see, I'm not sure what the pagination is. I think it's on page 9. So in 2023, I have it, it's on page 9 of the Business Oregon Enterprise. In 2023, the Oregon legislature passed a bill that requires enterprise zones to pay a fee to the K-12 school district in which it's located. The zone sponsors, in this case it would be you and Willamina.
Ours is page 15, yeah.
Oh, your is page 15. Establish the fee rate, so it's negotiated. And then you see the percentage there. And it's fairly detailed.
Okay,
But
thank you.
it's subject to negotiation, sure. And that's likely a conversation I would have with both superintendents, so at the same time. Yeah.
Tonight, we don't have forms set up and all that stuff, but tonight, it would help if we just showed that we have an interest to designate. Is that what you'd like to hear from us?
Yes, a motion would be great, motion in a second to direct staff to pursue the redesignation of the zone. Would be sufficient.
We'll probably be finished before we make the motion.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thanks, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Liz?
Do you want me to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at Tyler and see if it's worded right.
Okay, I make a motion that we reinstate the West Valley Enterprise Zone when it terminates June 30th, 2025.
It would just be right now,
Okay, right now. Alright, is that okay?
as long as it's good with.
Alright, who's up for? Okay, second. Okay, any discussion? Alright, we'll go ahead and vote then. All in favor? Okay, that looks unanimous.
I missed the second, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh,
It was Danny.
thanks, Danny.
Okay, all right, well, thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic day.
So, yeah, I was wondering if we should, have the sheriff's, okay, so I'm gonna, real quick, I know we have a deputy here, if everyone's okay, I was gonna have the sheriff's report, just in case he has to take off before we go into the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir.
What page is that on?
That is, okay, sorry, I forgot to find the page.
69 to 80.
Thank you.
I'm Sergeant Stoneberg for the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office. I'm the supervisor for Sheridan, Willamina. I just wanted to share some stats with you, some employee updates. We are dealing with a gentleman under the bridge right over here that would apparently set up shop, and so we will address that this evening with all the trespassing signs. We were giving him about a 24-hour notice, so just to let you know. In February, we responded to 277 calls for service in the city, generating 28 case numbers. I will piggyback on Juliette's house and say we had 6 DHS calls, and so when we get a DHS 307 at the state level that comes into the sheriff's office in our detective group, they review those and then they assign them out as necessary. So the city in February had 6 of those. I do not know the outcome of each one, other than they are investigated at our level. And if something rises to the criminal level, then it's dealt with appropriate manner. If it's not, then it's just mostly an information report. If I go back 1 month to January, we had 12 of these. So, you know, in my 20+ year career, they come in a lot. You know, and some rise to the level of criminal activity and some don't. So each one that comes in, they're addressed, we look at them and we deal with it accordingly. Your top 4 in the city, and I mentioned last week in Willamina, I made a guest appearance here real quick, but here I am today. Violent crime in both cities is relatively low, and I just want everybody to know that, because in a prior section of my life, I was in a very busy county, and that was on the rise. So that's a good thing, I think, here in our county, it's calm. So that's important. Your top 4 in the city for February was, we're stopping cars. We had about 62 traffic stops over the course of the month. Follow-up investigations, 23 of those. And that can be any prior case number we take. We're doing follow-up, we're talking to people, we're coming out to the community, trying to close a case or continue to work on something. We're serving civil papers, and we're out here, suspicious people, you know, whether it be, most of those folks, I'll be honest with you, are at the hours I'm working, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We'll go out with folks as potentially a suspicious person, and we'll, you know, we're turning rocks if we can and keeping the community safe. Staffing update, we have a deputy in FTEP, which is field training. We have another deputy coming on board March 24th, another one April 9th, another one doing his background, and then 2 others. So our staff levels are slowly moving in the upward direction, which is positive. And that's about all I have. Anybody have any questions?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Might we know any of those deputies?
Yeah, well, so I came, you might, Russ Van Wintering is coming back. So obviously he retired from our office, went to Polk County, now he's coming back. It's interesting, another deputy who is coming on board, he's 29 years at Washington County. I worked with him when I was up there. He's retiring up there and coming down here April 9th as a deputy. And if he's out here and you run into, remember the name Steve Schuster, great guy. And I couldn't be more happy to have him here because he is a wealth of knowledge for our young people in the office. Another gentleman's coming over, still has to get through his background, but he's coming over from Clackamas County. and then some internal transfers jail to patrol. So Russ will be on board, I think, on the 24th. Does a little bit of a, pre-academy, and then he's out the door.
Is Yamhill County currently, are they currently hiring for more deputies or?
We will, right now, so even with all those hirings, I think we're still about 4 bodies short, just to let everybody know. And there'll be we have 2 different hirings. We have lateral hiring, where, you're a career guy or girl, and you want to come to work for us, and then brand new folks. So we try and hire quarterly, and I think, I'm not sure if it's gonna be April or even, it depends, right, how these others internally are going. But usually it could be quarterly, 4 times a year we try. Yeah. Yes, sir.
We kinda got a Dakota ringing how to read the sheets of the calls for the month.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I understand what the 1 means, that means now, as opposed to, we'll get to it when we get to it. But, under the, there's a lot of traffic stops, which I think is great, but, what is a traffic C-O-M-P?
Complaint.
Complaint, okay.
Complaint. So, if someone in the city calls in a complaint, speeder, or, even at times we'll get calls where we have the abandoned vehicle. And I realize, I've worked at a smaller city where I truly believe that one of the large things, a livability issue, is when a car sits there for 7 months, it doesn't move. And so I understand code enforcement's gonna help with that, but any traffic complaint, we will look into.
Thank you, that makes a lot more sense now.
Okay, any other questions?
I'll be back next month.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna go backwards to consent agenda. The meeting minutes and voucher directory. Does anybody have any questions on either of those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll let it get, set up to, I move we accept the, both the consent agenda and the voucher directory as presented with potential, changes as I go through this.
I second it with potential changes.
Okay, okay, well then, any discussion then? Go ahead.
This is just, this is really stupid, but, the, page 23, the first page of the minutes after 18, Stacy is not a Crocker, she's Stacy Coker, so I thought it spelling, big deal, but her name's gonna be up in the report, might as well be here. I have several, questions. I wish Stacy could be here tonight. Hopefully you can help me out a little bit, Guy. This, page 33 of 200, the payment register. I don't think we've seen this before. Is this something new that Tyler Deck spits out that,
Yes, this is how the check the voucher directory that you used to see, this is now what it is in Tyler's system.
okay. And it's pretty easy to see what happened here. Since I go through this with a microscope, what am I looking for here? What does this tell me that all the rest of these pages don't tell me?
What is it like?
What do I get? What should I get from this register as opposed to the payable detail I've entered? Is this a short version of that?
I think so. I am not sure. They're the same thing, but I think one of them may be before she actually prints them, and then so you can tell Omega's been learning the payables, and so her initials are at the top. So I don't know if she selected a different, but yeah, a payable register and a payment register, I do believe are the same thing.
Okay, thanks.
It appears to me that the payment register shows you a little bit more detail about the account number or the line that it actually was paid out of. And I don't see that on the payment register.
Okay, on page 39, the note page, Nick Swite's dump trucking. Haul away sewer lagoons. So I bet they were hauling away the lagoons. What were they hauling away, Cal?
The city's been storing different types of material out there,
and that had been identified as OSHA as an industrial permit use. So we removed that material.
Okay, is this something we could have done ourselves without hiring them if we had a dump truck that actually ran, or we could use?
It depends from time to time, it depends on our scheduling. The trucks we use for that job are roughly twice the size of our truck.
Okay.
But I would say, yes, Jim, that is something that Public Works can do when they have running equipment.
And then I also noticed that it's listed as a miscellaneous expense, which is not a problem, but streets got included in there, and I wonder what, emptying the sewer out, I understand water and sewer, sure. Why are the streets paying for part of that bill? Do you know? This is an ask versus, I don't know.
Some of that material would have been, street surface would have been asphalt and sidewalk.
Okay, perfect, thank you. That was easy. It'd be more difficult as they go along, so, but what do I got here? Oh, yeah, page 41. Traffic Safety Supply Company Incorporated spent our ARPA funds. And it looks like we bought our signs that we were talking about, $50,000 for the safety signs. Why is that charged to water and not charged to the streets?
That was probably an error.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that right away. It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
It depends on where they put the ARPA funds, but.
And then, do we reimburse ourselves then, since it's ARPA funds?
Yeah, well, it's on the PO is ARPA funds, so I'll follow up with Stacy.
Okay.
But that's probably where the funds are put.
Okay. On page 46, there's only one item, it's Tandy Trucking, and this time they're hauling concrete, so it's the same thing, except they haul the concrete versus whatever was being hauled by before. Was a different company to do that.
We had two sites, one was at the Lagoons and one was on the 200 block of Mill Street.
Thank you.
We're charged separately for concrete, dirt, and gravel.
Well, I'm sure everybody has a charge, a special charge for something. On page 49, okay, the best Pot's cleaning out the bathroom to the south side, no problem. That seems to be probably accounted for, but it's listed as wetland ditch maintenance, and that's not a ditch they're cleaning out, that's the bathroom, so.
Historically, the city, for as long as I've been around the city of Sheridan, has taken South Park funds out of that line item.
Okay, that's fine, because there are times last month, Stacy showed me a couple things that couldn't charge them to the parks or state of the streets because it didn't have a code for that, so that sounds like another one that's an issue. And I think I'm almost done, folks. Oh, I'm almost done. Pages 57 and 58. USA Blue Book. We have 4 orders that look like, if I read this correctly, they're made on the same day. But they charge us for shipping on each item. That seems a little bit excessive to me. I mean, Amazon delivers for free, but they're not Amazon, but do they have to charge shipping for each individual item that we purchase?
I mean, that is a way businesses do that. Sometimes the billing for each item and the shipping can be included for that single item. It doesn't mean they didn't ship in the same container, but.
That's what I was thinking. It could have, I don't know exactly what our supplies, sewer and water supplies, what they look like when they come in, but could have been all one box, but they're still charging us $9.04 for shipping on each.
Generally, we get testing supplies.
Okay.
Jim, I think that is one shipping charge that is split between the 3 accounts, because there is a total shipping at it looks like one invoice that has the total shipping of $27.12 on page 57. So I think it was broken out.
We broke it out.
To the accounts.
Okay, well, like what caught me most was that 3 of them are $9.04. Okay, that sounds like we made a device. So then the 4th one, which is a chart recorder replacement, it's not sewer and water lab supplies, $17.82. I thought, well, that's interesting. Again, I don't understand it, but I just get a little bothered, but we're paying them lots of money and then they charge, they're shipping on top of that. And if they're all coming at one box, it shouldn't be that way. Last one I got, and this is kind of a big in here, that's where I really wish that Stacy was here. It's listed under PGE, on page 64. And these are some whopping numbers. So I'm hoping, and I wanted to ask her specifically, is this quarterly that they're charging us? Because if we use $5,038.05 for the water plant in 1 month, we've got a problem.
Which vendor, where?
It's under the vendor PGE on page 64. And as you look down, you can see very large numbers that we're paying out. And then the other question I had for her is, in all of this, I didn't see the breakout for streetlights, which I've been trying to track. And it's not even here, and I'd hate to see what that is, because it's usually the largest, so. But because Stacy's not here to tell us, can we just say?
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And with that, please let me be done. Yeah, I am done, thank you very much for putting up with me.
Great, any other questions? Okay. Call for a vote then, all in favor on approving the, okay, I won't say the whole thing. All in favor? Okay, that looks unanimous, okay. Alright, next, department reports, He was here, so next finance director budget reports. I know Stacy's not here. If there's questions, Kai might be able to answer. Go ahead.
Oh, I just, understanding how these funds are broken down, I get it that each fund has in totality has a amount of money in it. But since we identify by line, so we're overspending on some individual lines. Does anybody care? You're probably gonna do some sort of supplemental budget thing to get those back up, so.
Yes.
I shouldn't need to, tell you about that we're 32% over in our rock and aggregate. Because that still averages out, the fund has 80% of its available funds, so it'll just be changed. That's all.
Any other questions on this report? Kai might be able to. Okay, we'll move on.
Oh, I do have one last thing.
Good.
On page 84, where it shows basically how we doing. And we're 9 months into the fiscal year. And if you look at the percent remaining for each fund, we're doing very well. Basically, we're not, if you average those out, I didn't, but probably close to 75% of the funds are still available for the items that we need to do, which is a good thing.
Is that?
Oh, it tells you the remaining
Yeah.
percentage.
That's something that the old program didn't do, so.
Yeah, that's
We're not saving up to buy something huge.
No, there's probably a couple things in there. I mean, there's gonna be some capital projects that haven't taken off yet. We're getting late in the season, honestly. We're trying to kick those off. There's also, some adjustment for Tyler. Tyler Tech, thank you. I myself, am not 100% sure those numbers are accurate, but we are working on that.
I did see the new sidewalk though, right?
Ron, and he just mentioned Tyler Tech. Are we fully integrated now? Because I saw some more charges for different things.
We are, I'd say 95% there. Code is still, code enforcement still finishing up. Court's about finished up. They probably have about 5% left on court. Payroll is not 100% complete. She's finishing that up, and I believe on April 9th. So there are still things that are hanging out there, and we can't terminate our software agreement with Vision until we close out all of get everything finalized and into Tyler. So I really want to get it 100% complete,
Well,
because I would like to stop paying at least one of the companies.
Oh, yeah, the reports are getting much more filled in. You remember 2 months ago, we had a whole bunch
Yeah.
of zeros. This
Yeah.
time it was almost complete, but I did notice we're paying Tyler a lot of money. Once we get everything integrated, should we just see like 1 monthly fee for?
I believe, they call it the SAS, the Software as a Services Agreement, and that's an annual fee, so you see this big price annually. There should not be a lot of other, like, this much for training, and this much for configuration, and you shouldn't see a lot of those smaller, $1,000 here and $1,000 there. Although those are all within the bulk, the big project that you approved. It just feels like it nickels and dimes.
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah,
go through
okay.
this, you look,
Mhm.
have it, there's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So eventually once it's fully integrated, we'll be able to say, okay, Tyler Tech, here's your money. We'll
Yeah,
call you
because
when we need it.
supposedly if we don't use all of the hours that are allotted, we won't be billed for all of that. Yet they may have to use some of those hours that we didn't use over here for more like for our payroll program, for instance, and have to. So I will probably be paying what we.
I know it makes sense, because I know it wasn't fully integrated, I could tell that,
We're close, so close.
which is great.
Okay, Guy, do you wanna wait till the city manager?
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll go on to library director report.
Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight either. I don't think she's available online.
We've got her, report here. Any questions or comments or?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just, I always like to go back and look, and these numbers are very, very similar to last month, and I think they're good numbers. It shows that the library is being, well used. It's interesting that we actually need 2 library clerk positions, because we just filled one a while back, and I guess things have gone south from there. Is that the best way to put that? So, yeah, we are looking for 2 more library clerks. But yeah, the numbers from that, Gwen has given us here are outstanding, especially, the overdrive downloads, which she told me about last month, that number is up, so that's a good thing. So, yeah, all these numbers are excellent. It shows that, library is well used and appreciated.
You can blame me for one of the clerks, but
So,
told her to come home.
things happen.
Actually, that could go right.
Yeah, it's my fault too.
Yes.
It's my computer, sorry. Okay. So no other questions, we'll go on to code enforcement. We have their report. Any questions or comments on that one?
I have one.
Go ahead, Jim.
On page 91, the emergency management safety initiatives, all of a sudden, OSHA said we need 6 hand washing stations.
Not all of a sudden.
But
OSHA did a voluntary walkthrough some months ago. I'm not sure exactly when that was, but it was before I was back. So normally those take place when OSHA is doing industrial inspections in your trade. So at this point, it was cities. So the city did a voluntary inspection before an enforcement inspection, and that is to tighten up any issues we have. OSHA, a lot of things have changed since the last inspection, and those eye wash stations are now required basically anywhere where we handle chemicals. I will say Angela worked very, very hard. That number was $190,000.
Oh my goodness.
We are down to under 40.
Oh, that's great.
So those were a lot of negotiations that Angela did on the city's behalf.
Here, as usual, the report is extremely thorough. I had 2 just language questions. You mentioned converting municipal court to the court of record. What's the difference between that and page 90?
Yeah, I can answer that.
It's supposed to generate revenue.
So currently, any actual misdemeanors that are cited within the city's jurisdiction are kicked up to circuit court. And so all of the fines and everything are managed at the county level. Angela and Chrissy have been researching what we would need to do to become a court of record so that certain low-level misdemeanors would be kept within our own court. And so then those fines and fees would be paid to us, and there are mandatory revenue sharing there with, I believe it's with the county and the state. But
At least we'll get our cut of the pie for a change. That's what it's been.
Yes, that is Angela's goal in exploring that.
And then one last question about it, and again, I wish she were online. The development of a community gleaning program, again, it's on page 90. I know what gleaning is, but it's basically cleaning up after the farmers have done their job, and whatever's left there is free to whoever wants it. Is that what gleaning is?
Yes.
So, we're trying to set up a program for that, is that what I'm reading here?
Ian might know, he raised his hand.
Oh, there we go.
I believe I brought this up, as, I think, with the, I don't know, cause I bring a lot of things up. But I believe I did bring it up with Angela at one point, to talk about gleaning in the community, since we are an agricultural community. I, for instance, go to a farmer's field outside of, town here that grows garlic and allows for people to go after he harvests to walk his field and pick up garlic. I mean, garlic's not that expensive, but you can go get as much as you want, pretty much.
And you know it's gonna be fresh too.
So it's a nice way to go and just kind of pick up things that would normally just kind of be reincorporated back into the earth. But it's useful stuff for the community. A lot of farmers just give it away.
I like the concept, because, if nothing else, if you personally don't need it, turn it over to the Grant Sherman Food Bank, and I bet they'll take it. So, great, thank you.
Okay, Liz?
I was just gonna piggyback on that. There's a blueberry farmer on, is it Gooseberry Lane? What's that lane? If you shoot. Loganberry Lane, thank you. And you can go, if you get his permission, you can go in after his machines go through and glean blueberries, and I've gotten like 20 pounds there before. Yeah, to freeze for the winter. It's nice. It's a nice thing to be able to do.
Okay, any other
Okay.
questions? Oh, go ahead.
And I just wanted to compliment Angela on this report. The community initiatives it's really nice. She's really going the extra mile.
Really good, actually. Sorry to run over, but yeah.
Yeah,
that's
she
good
really is.
information.
It's really nice. There's a lot of nice things for the community. Not to mention, she doesn't even have the vaccine clinic on there, which will come up with, maybe she does. Yeah, she
Details
does.
to follow too, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like she has the community garage sale dates.
Yep. That's nice.
Any other comments? This one? Okay. Alright, we'll move forward then. City recorder grant tracking report.
No changes from last month. We didn't have any activity on them, so they're pretty much boring.
Jim?
I do have two questions. So when you get a negative remaining balance, what does that mean?
Is that the water master plan one?
What we got, the community development block grant first, that's, minus 71,000, and then the Southside Park improvements is, minus 673,000.
Would you tell me which page you were talking about here?
Oh, sure, page 110 is the first line,
Thank you.
that's the negative number.
Okay, so 110, so that's a reimbursement grant.
Mm.
So they reimburse us, and right now, I think we're on hold waiting for, Laura is working with the business organ to get the final, there's a certain amount of money that we need to have plugged in there to designate, it's like $400,000 that they're working out to make it so we can get our next
So
reimbursement.
we're kind of on hold for that one. That's what
Yes.
that means, though, it doesn't mean
Mhm.
we overspent, it just means we're not very.
Right, we're just waiting for reimbursement.
And is
yeah.
that also true on the Southside Park? That's an awful big number.
Southside Park, yes, we're waiting for huge reimbursements on
Yeah,
Southside
we
Park.
just got caught up with our reports on that, so I believe we're eligible to request a reimbursement. I don't think it is for 657,000 to 30, I'm not on that page, so.
Yes, on page 12. Big number.
558 is what's eligible?
Yeah.
So that's what's eligible for that. The rest of that is coming out of city funds.
Okay, at least, that number's huge, so that's great. Okay. That's all I got on that.
report. Any questions on, or comments on this one? Go ahead, Danny.
I was curious on the page 116, second paragraph, property line adjustment. City-owned partial to a nearby private phone partial. What is that?
I can explain that one. That is on Elm Street. There was, the city has is it just an open ditch?
Pretty much.
Storm water utility. And there were some properties that the county reacquired through property tax foreclosure. And I think it was in 2023, we negotiated, or 2024, I can't remember exactly when it was, but we negotiated with the county to acquire those parcels because we had those facilities on there. The purchase price was only the amount of delinquent taxes, with the additional condition that we undertake this lot line adjustment because there were some fences installed by the abutting property owners that didn't exactly comport with the property lines. So I think it's about 900 square feet that is going to an adjacent property.
Okay, Liz?
So I was curious about the bathroom, area at the library being converted into a staff break area. Would that would there still be a men's and women's bathroom at the library? How does that?
There will be a singular unisex bathroom.
Oh, so you're gonna eliminate one and then,
That's correct.
and that hallway too, would that?
The hallway will still exist, the back door will still be available.
Okay. So where would the break room be?
It is in the bathroom to the north in the hallway.
Tell me right or left.
Left.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
All right,
I was
thanks.
working on it, when I get there.
Okay. Well, that's good for them.
Okay, Jim?
Well, it looks like to me, we got good news that this subdivision at the end of North Bridge Street is finally gonna happen, it's been approved at least. Is that what I'm reading here?
Yeah, that's what you're reading. I think it's been approved before, but yeah.
Well, it was approved as a 32 lot, and they said, oh, we wanna make it 27, and they can't, you're not supposed to be able to amend those. So, okay, they can't amend it, so it says, the planning commission has approved the subdivision, so it should be good to go. We're gonna get some new houses here, maybe.
Has to go through.
The subdivision is approved.
Yeah, then we probably just leave it at that.
Yeah.
We're not sure.
It's out of our hands after that.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think, are there more steps that they have to go through? Okay, so as of right now,
but at least we're not hold up.
We are not.
And it looks like also good news under special projects, we got this $220,000 grant to update our transportation systems plan.
yeah, he's had that on there a couple different, because I think we got that approved back in October. But I think maybe he's just giving an update on what he's done so far.
Yeah, I can fill in some of what the update is. One of my other cities was awarded TGM to update the TSP a couple of years ago, and negotiating the scope of work with ODOT, it takes a very long time. And so that was the primary holdup to this point. And so now we have received, ODOT actually manages, the city does not receive any money with this grant. The ODOT facilitates payment of the consultant to undertake the TSP update. There are consultants who are on an approved list, so it's not a formal public bid process, but ODOT has received 4 letters of interest from 4 different consultants. And so I believe Kai, Liam, I don't know who else from the city is involved in that meeting, but meet with
Chris.
our city engineer, will meet to discuss which of the 4 consultants would best serve our needs. And Liam is, he's very excited about a lot of things. He's an excitable guy, but he's very, very excited with the level of interest and the consultants who were interested in this project. So
Great. So it sounds like good news.
Yeah,
very, very good news. I think our TSP is 25 years old.
We love adjustments, by the way.
Okay, any other comments on this? Okay. Right, we can move on then, to ordinances and resolutions. The first is ordinance 2025-01, ordinance amending chapter 13.04.480 of the Sheridan Municipal Code relating to water rates and charges. That's on page 117. I believe this was introduced, last meeting, and so this is just our final reading.
We had 2 readings last meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to read the ordinance 2025-01, ordinance amending chapter 13.04.480 of the Sheridan Municipal Code relating to water rates and charges, to be read by title only.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Okay, vote by show of hands. Okay, that's unanimous.
Ordinance 2025-01, an ordinance amending chapter 13.04.480 of the Sheridan Municipal Code relating to water rates and charges.
Peter.
Move to accept the reading and adopt ordinance 2025-01.
I'll second it.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Okay, Yvonne, can you take a roll call vote?
Yes, Buckles,
Aye.
Flynn,
Aye.
McElroy,
Yes.
Hodgins,
Yes.
Houston.
Aye.
Hebert.
Yes.
Okay. Passes.
Yay.
So next we have ordinance 2025-02. That is page 1.1. And this is also the third reading. Yes, I believe. Great. Peter.
I move to read ordinance 2025-02, an ordinance amending chapter 13.12.260 of the Sheridan Municipal Code relating to sewer user charges, to be read by title only.
Okay, first and second. Any discussion? Not seeing none. All right, vote by show of hands. Looks unanimous.
Ordinance 2025-02, an ordinance amending chapter 13.12.260 of the Sheridan Municipal Code relating to sewer user charges.
Liz?
I move to accept the reading and adopt ordinance 2025-02.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing none. All right, Yvonne, can you take a roll call vote?
Yes, Hebert,
Yes.
Houston.
Aye.
Hodgins,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Flynn,
Aye.
Buckles.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. So, next, no unfinished business. Next we have new business. We have two, I believe it's two, budget committee members who would like to continue to be on the budget committee.
What page is that, please?
125.
Thank you.
If there's no objection, those I can reappoint. Ian.
What is was there no applicants?
So normally, we see if the members are interested in returning, and then if they aren't, then we'll open it up. Is normally the process we've done.
Okay.
Liz.
Based upon the above, I recommend that the mayor consider reappointing Kay Buckles and Paula Nagus, is that how you say it?
Nagus.
To the budget committee with the term end date of 12/31/2027.
Second.
Okay.
That's a motion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I could. Yeah. Okay. I will. Unless there's any objection, I'll go ahead and reappoint them both. So I will appoint Paula Nagus and Kay Buckles to the budget committee until 12/31/2027. Okay, next, the Boston Pump Station PLC improvement scope of work. Guys, this,
Yeah, so Boston's been in front of the council several times. We have a scope of work in a contract from Civil West, the engineer of record for the city of Sheridan, and we would like this to be approved so we can move forward. The funding source will be the ARPA funds from the US Treasury Department.
Liz,
So I have a question about this. So this is just the preliminary work, right? With the, or is this the actual work for the
It
new
is
automated?
the design and the solicitation for contract for building.
Okay,
So it won't include the cost for the construction of it.
so it's 35,000 for the design and the bid, you get.
Correct.
Soliciting bids. And then do you have an idea of the ballpark part of the bid is?
I think the total budget was 350 was the engineering estimate.
Oh, okay. And we budgeted for that, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Alright, thank you.
okay, Dean,
I move to approve the Civil West Engineering Service Agreement for the Boston Pump Station PLC improvements. The scope of work in the amount of $35,627 to be paid out of the water capital improvements budget.
Second, third,
okay, alright, first and second, any discussion on that? Good,
I just wanna reiterate, what Kai said to me once about this particular project, that this is a very important project, and it's important that we see it through to the end, this Boston pump station specifically. So, I would just like to reiterate my support for this Boston pump station being upgraded to the utmost capacity as quickly as possible, that's all.
thank you.
And just a related, not really update, but just additional information is Laura with the COG, provided myself and Kai some additional funding opportunities for infrastructure projects that will support increased capacity, which support housing. So we are going to be working with Laura over the next, we have two weeks to get that application in, for $100,000, and if that's awarded, our intent would be to apply it towards this project.
So would that give us a surplus in the ARPA funds? If that came in?
Potentially.
It could free up some monies. Go ahead, Kai.
It's been talked amongst both staff and especially COG that there may be some better options for the ARPA funds. And that's something we'll be coming to council to discuss.
Okay, well, any more discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote then, all in favor? It's unanimous, okay. So, next we have a discussion for city manager recruitment firms, that's page 133. To 200. Okay, Liz, you have a question?
Well, I'm just saying the Crossman fee, the price is right, 18.5 versus just the 27,000.
I would say that all the firms that have presented to council, including Crocker, have very different criteria. Each firm does a very different job. And I would say while the cost is one of the considerations, Yvonne has found a sheet that the city council has seen before, a rating scale. And the fee charge is 10%, is 10. So out of a possible of 100, so it's 10%. So, but I would agree with you, it is lower.
And their paperwork looked good too, on the city of, was it, Oregon City? Was that the one? I had to go there, what? You know, their sample paperwork for our position. Yeah, for Oregon City, it was nice.
passing a motion that we consider using this selection chart that's been given to us, is that?
It's very informational.
Well, yeah, it's kind of informational because I think you're still kind of waiting for the outcome of the interim piece to kind of make a decision on where you want to go from there. But we just thought, there was a couple of counselors that were interested in Kaufman, and we just want to make sure now that you got all three in front of you, and then I grabbed that selection criteria that you used the last time, so you sort of like, oh yeah, it kind of felt probably familiar to a few of you, so, that there's more to it than just the fees, that there's a lot of underlying things in there that, you have to consider when you're doing a city manager recruitment, so.
The Prothman, group was, I did actually speak to Kai specifically about, I think just the company that Mountain Angel used, I think, or something, because a constituent asked specifically for that. So I thought, hey, let's just give it a fair shake and see who else is out there before we commit to Jensen. And I will say that in the limited amount of time that I've spent looking into it, and I did speak to the city manager that Dayton just hired through Jensen's process, he liked it very much, and everybody has said that there's no other choice than Jensen right now, as far as like, that's the best one. They're saying they're so good, you just choose them. So I don't know what that is, but that's all I've heard. That's why that's, I guess.
Did they say why? Did they give some reasons why they thought they did such a good job?
The city manager of Dayton?
Yeah, why
Yes.
Jensen did such a good
Yes,
job?
he said that it was an easy process. It was very simple for him to go through, and he said it was the easiest out of all of the processes he's ever been through to be recruited, and that just the process was easy. That's what he described to me. So from his point.
I can add in a little bit. I believe it was 2 months ago, I met with most of the Yamhill County mayors, and this topic did come up, and all of them recommended to go with Jensen. The Dayton mayor strongly recommended it. I think the only group there that hadn't recently used Jensen, I think, was Willamina, and she was a newer mayor too. They used the COG, but the other mayors there, Dayton, Lafayette, believe, maybe even Yamhill. I believe Yamhill. Do you know? Yamhill?
I don't think they used
Several of the mayors there, they recommended it.
Well, having worked with Jensen previously, their process is very, very smooth. And I'm a little disappointed that we got $1,000 break for having used them once before, and they're still the most expensive of the three. But the way I look at that, reading each proposal and what they offer, it's hard to compare apples to apples because of the way they break things down. But for me personally, Jensen is a known quantity, and they are very good. So I would lean their way. But if you look at cost, the old phrase "you get what you pay for" it might be true with Jensen. You're paying almost $10,000 more than Crossman, but it could be worth it.
Any other? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I do want to say that recruiting is part of one of the major tools in that is networking. And what do you build networks with? It's over time. And Jensen Strategies has been in that business for quite a bit longer than anybody else the council has had the opportunity to look at. Prothman is fairly new to Oregon. They are very prolific in Washington for public works. I'm very familiar with Prothman because I'm a public works guy. As far as city managers, I called around, and the consensus was Jensen, and I only called other city managers to discuss it. And everyone suggested that Jensen was the And I think a lot of that has to do with credibility. They're a known performer. There's a lot at risk when you're recruiting nationally. But I think that Jensen is more consistent in their ability to put someone in the chair than some of the other ones. They've just been in the business a lot longer. Their black book is just a book of
Jim. So tonight, you'd just like to see us approve this form to let us decide, and then at our next meeting, we'll actually discuss and approve one of these companies. Is that?
I think the timeline is flexible.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's got on here, because if you read the recommended motion, on the level, next meeting on Monday night, which sounds like the next time we meet, so. Just asking if that's what the idea is in this.
Oh, and I think I meant tonight when I
Yeah,
said
that's
that.
what I was wondering.
So I apologize if I wrote that in a way that seemed like the next meeting Monday night. I meant the meeting tonight. When I write those, I'm trying to like say in the future, but I'm like not sure, like, are you taking that tonight? Or, I mean, I probably should have said tonight's meeting, but,
Or at the next.
so I apologize. I'm like, did I make
Okay.
it sound like?
Alright, Peter?
Should we instead then maybe skip the suggestion table here? And, I mean, it sounds like we have quite a lot of information already. Do we really need more or what?
Good point.
This depends on if everybody's comfortable going with Jensen. And if that's the case, then we can just probably move forward.
That would certainly move the process along, because we know we need to move the process along.
Tyler, are you looking for consensus or motion, or what would be sufficient?
I wasn't anticipating that the council would be ready to select the recruitment firm. But if there is consensus for Jensen, we could have a motion directing staff to work with Jensen to have actual contract ready for our, is it April 7th?
Is the work session coming up? Or special session?
Yeah, April 7th.
So we can take that direction.
Okay, Peter?
I motion to direct staff to solicit a contract from Jensen Strategies. Second.
I second it.
Okay.
Good
Short and
job.
sweet.
Okay, alright, first and a second discussion on it. Okay, we can vote then, all in favor? Alright, that's unanimous. Okay, we have a referral.
Sold us. Bye.
Okay.
And Ian provided.
Oh, that's right, that's true, that's true.
Okay,
Sorry.
next up we got city manager report, okay?
That's this one, is that the blue one?
It's the one I handed out.
Okay.
Yeah, handout.
Wait a second. Anybody need one? I have extras.
Lucy, do you have one? You got one here? Okay, I think it's probably good.
Wanted to mention, we met at the dog park this morning. That's very visible to the public. It's the one on Jefferson Street. We're excited to say that it looks like we're probably gonna break ground in April. The project is gonna be volunteers, public works, and if budget permits, we'll have a contractor to give us a hand as well. It will be one individual gentleman who will be there as more of a supervisor role. Public works and volunteers will make up the workforce, and the city will be providing all the equipment for the project. We also are getting some donations. I do have a letter to write to get some of those. But yeah, we're hoping we can build that, and I'm hoping at least get the bones up one weekend.
Cool.
And then move forward with that. I just wanted to really thank Councilor Houston and Alicia and Kay for showing up and giving their time. It also helps motivate everybody, and it's good to see citizens out there helping push these things forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ian.
just like to say a nice pun when I said we're getting the bones ready for the dog park.
You can move your biscuits right down there.
Excavation. Mill Street houses, you probably noticed the lots are almost prepped, so I think it's about time to discuss what the city wants to do move forward. And I would be so bold as to suggest that council has a discussion about what they would like to see on those lots. Now, they have options. Council can make a decision on their own and then request RFPs from developers on council's goals, or you could do an open RFP, and that would be development goals. So there's two ways to do that. You might be able to do both of them, but of course, council goals are gonna come before developers. I've seen it work both ways. If the consensus can't be made with council, then I would suggest that we discuss doing an RFP for development. And then the developer would come forward and discuss with council what they want to put in our community. And then council would have the ability to award that to the developer that they chose.
I did ask Liam last week about with the new, FEMA and floodplain and those requirements, what that could look like for new development. I'm not sure if we should hear from him or if he can just kind of give us like a memo and kind of say what kind of the basic challenges are. But if we're getting an RFP, those developers should know what the challenges are, and they should know. I would hope that they would know what kind of the constraints are, because it doesn't sound like it's impossible to build. I thought it was just basically you can't build anything, but
I didn't see it. There is a path, and I did talk to a developer who says he can do it already.
Okay.
So he says he could put mini homes over there, high density mini homes over there. So, I don't think he's really good at his job though. He says it's very difficult to develop in the floodplain right now.
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman I talked to was 10K Doors, Richard Lindstrom. So he was in town, so I had a conversation with him, showing the lots. I just took advantage of the opportunity I had. So yeah, but Liam will absolutely be essential. Yeah, just move forward, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to get just his feedback, and then we can discuss it, because I know it is zone commercial. I don't know, maybe we all want commercial, maybe the tiny homes, but yeah, I think hearing his input would be helpful when we do that. If everybody would like, we can talk about that in the next work session.
That's a good time.
So, okay.
Well, you've heard about some of the incidents at Hebert Plaza. There have been previous incidences there as well. Some of them have been reported, and law enforcement has been down there as well as today. Today, that was a request that came from staff, and it was just to follow up on some earlier complaints from residents and a business owner. So it's a difficult subject to handle, right? And I know everybody would like to just put up a fence, and we can do that certain times of year, but there is also private property involved, but that's navigatable. What isn't navigatable is the river, and it is not advisable to put a hydraulic structure that can load with water and debris anywhere near a building. So fencing that off in the wintertime is not a good idea. There's a lot of risk there. There are other deterrents available on the market, and as these problems are not Sheridan problems, right? They're everyone's problems. So I think we can network and find some solutions for this. There's been a suggestion around here for a long time that I think will work. I'm not going to mention it, but it has been being discussed.
The rocks or the boulders.
That's certainly one of them. Yeah. Some of them are honestly pretty ambitious, and there are structures down there built out of such rocks. So the county put down there. But I think we'll have to work with the county and law enforcement as well moving forward. But I feel like probably a mix of deterrence and enforcement will be what wins out down there. It won't be 100% of the time. What happened this last weekend will probably happen again. And what happens is someone will set up shop down there, and then they have guests just like anybody else. They have visitors, and then things got out of hand down there, so that's the price of doing business, I think, in public owned property these days.
Oh, Liz.
So my question is about cleaning it up, because there's no trespassing signs all along the fence, and most of the trash, at least it looked like it from the video, was on the other side of that plastic type fencing, so.
That is correct.
I know there's a citywide cleanup coming up, but I mean, residents couldn't go back in there to do that. So how's it, and how will it get cleaned up?
We're working on that. Well, Yamhill County is no longer doing a work group. Polk County will not send a crew to Yamhill County. ODOT had stopped their work program 5 to 10 years ago. So we're reaching out to try and see which one of our partners is still doing this. The alternative is Public Works. And it is not a job they enjoy doing. There's human waste, there's needles, but these things are also in the public either, also. So it needs to be addressed. The fence has been torn down, we'll put that back up. But it is difficult to do the cleanup. And I have seen the state agencies take it on, ODOT specifically. Like I said, they dropped that program. So all that I'm aware of right now, our two options are private or Public Works.
Oh shit, it's gonna have to be you guys. That's too bad.
Yeah, Jim.
In the past, I don't remember exactly when, but when we started to try and get that into a real full Bourbon Street park, we did have volunteers. I was one of them, went down, including under the plaza and under the bridge even, and cleaned all that out. And like you said, not a lot of fun, but that might be another option versus having, I don't want to order anybody to go in there and do that. Public Works, get in there. No, I don't. That's just bad, but if we get volunteers to do that. The other question is how long will it last before it looks just like it looks now? That's the tough part.
And the problem with using volunteers to clean up what's currently there is, like I said, that there are human waste, and needles, other drug paraphernalia, and so it's a sort of a high risk cleanup versus.
We definitely have to have them sign the waiver, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I would feel comfortable having volunteers cleaning that up. And Kai and I talked about that.
I'd say Public Works has taken their sharps training. They do take pathogen training, and they do have the safety equipment to perform the job. I would first ask for volunteers.
Well, I already volunteered.
I'll volunteer.
I meant from Public Works, sorry. From Public Works.
Can we volunteer?
You guys can do it.
I would rather you guys volunteer than general community members.
Okay.
The liability.
That's the piece that I'm really concerned.
But I think you're right. Somebody mentioned, when is it gonna happen again? And that is the piece for Public Works. They do the job and do the job and do the job. How do we prevent the job? That's the answer they're looking for, just like the community.
Lucy?
Well, isn't it possible to keep that from happening, to just have the police go by that, put it on their route every night? Because if they're out of there every night, then you're not gonna have to clean up any waste or needles or anything else. If it's left to the Public Works, cause that's probably where it's gonna end up going. The only thing I could think is like, put it on their beat, put it on their list of places to go by, and make sure there's nobody under there every night. It doesn't matter if they're on a term for 8 hours.
It's on their list.
Okay, so hopefully it won't happen again then, because if they check it every night, nobody's gonna be able to set up camp because, I imagine there's a graveyard shift and two of them together can go down and take a peek and say,
Is part of the problem, maybe this is not for public, is part of the problem is that if someone is set up camp, you have to have 72 hours notice to vacate them, or is that on private?
But not down there.
Not down there, okay.
When we updated our public camping ordinance in 2021, Cause we have a fire issue.
What about, I don't know if you could put them on the side of the columns of the bridge, but solar lights, so like if there was movement down there, then the police could see the lights and know that someone must be down there. Something to light up to show, the solar motion lights. That way they wouldn't have to go down there, but if they saw a light, then they'd know something's triggering it.
I did walk it today, and there's a lot of deer tracks down there.
Oh, so they'd be facing deer.
But then too, if the lights turned on, if somebody was under there, they probably wouldn't like it either, because I have them at my house when I'm walking out to the barn, and they're pretty doggone bright.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're kind of nuisance-y bright.
Those are some of the deterrents that we'll be looking at.
Okay. Well, thank you. You wanna move on to your next one?
Does anybody else have any questions?
I'll probably bring it up just briefly at the end with the mayor. Jim?
I just wondered, you've got on here number 5, the CPA is collaborating with city staff on financial matters. Sounds like we have a specific.
We do.
Okay, thank you.
I think I meant on number 3, but yeah.
Oh, my bad, yeah.
No, you're fine.
Just moving ahead.
Yeah.
So the library is conducting their second rounds of interviews this week, so hopefully we'll be filling those positions soon. Anybody have any questions on that? The CPA, Sarah Johnson?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
You just say Sarah.
She's working with staff. She started last week. I talked to council about her previously. So she is doing a lot of great work, and I can tell you the first 5 hours, I had one the day she showed up to talk about her contract or what she was gonna do here. She came to come to work, which shocked me. I signed the contract, she signed it, shoved it back and said, can I start now? Which surprised me. I thought you would have to schedule and it would take a couple weeks, but no, she was ready to go right then. And she's probably put in, 15 hours or so, and is producing a lot of great work for us. She's catching us up very quickly. I have a high confidence level in the work that she is performing right now. It is certainly wonderful for staff to be able to reconcile some of the line items that we're working on and start moving forward. We have found out quite a bit of information about our audit and our past budget. That would indicate that we probably didn't start with the right budget numbers this budget year. We talked to COG today and they said, never fear, you will be fine. So that means we're going into budget season right now. That also means we will not have exact numbers going into budget. But hopefully the timing will work out that we can get those reconciled and move forward with the correct numbers.
Gosh.
Jim?
I did notice as I was going through, we paid $5,000 for the audit. Is the audit done or did we just?
It's still ongoing.
Still ongoing.
It is in its 3rd week, I believe, which is unusual.
Yeah, that might have been partly my fault, because I know they emailed me and
It wasn't your correct.
well, they emailed and talked to me, so I know it is going on, but.
I am still, and Stacy is still, and probably Yvonne, we are still providing paperwork for them and answering emails and questions. Normally that's a 3 to 5 day process.
Did that cover your?
Yeah, I don't think unless anybody has any questions about 6 or 7.
Well, I do have, will we have a budget workshop and then have the budget meeting?
I think so, Yvonne, did you get that?
But there probably, this year, because there are no changes to our budget committee, I don't think we had planned. We do have Peter. I feel like Peter, we can get him caught up pretty quick, but I don't know that we had planned for, these are things that I think the interim city manager will probably determine. But right now, because typically that's like in the very end of April, beginning of May, if there's a workshop. But I don't know, Kai and I feel like we're the ones to teach a budget workshop class.
And I think when we're getting started, these are staff level meetings. So we're gonna begin staff level meetings and get input from the top to the bottom about what the city needs and what staff needs to perform their work and serve the public.
I don't think I went to the workshop the first year, so you probably, if you have questions, you can always ask any of us.
We've only done it once, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you, Kai. Okay, moving on, second comment period. Yvonne, did you get?
I have not received any.
Okay, we'll move on then. So mayor, council comments. So first thing, yeah, real quick before the meeting, me and Peter went down to the bridge. Joe sent me an email and shared the video he took, and it looked, pretty much just like that. And I think his word disheartening is a good term for it. It's disappointing that that's happened down there and that somebody did that, but it sounds like we have a plan to clean it up. Hopefully, a plan to not let it happen again. But this type of thing can happen there, or it can happen in another location. I just hope that we can make some progress to make it so that doesn't happen down there, especially because we're going to start improvements down there as a park, and I'm not going to want to take either of my kids down there to that park if that's over there. Right. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, that this won't be an issue anymore. Thursday, I'm also attending. It's like a water event. It's like a water caucus. It's going to be at the Salem Capitol. I'm going to go over there for a couple hours, learn about water infrastructure, some water bills. I might be able to talk to our representative, although I'm sure she's very busy. But we're doing that on Thursday, and hopefully I can learn about some funding opportunities for the city. Anybody have any comments? I think I'm done. Jim?
I just got one question. What's the status of the Sheridan logo contest? Did we get more entrants?
I think officially closes tomorrow. Yvonne, did you get any?
I received one more.
Okay. Yeah, we might get some, hopefully more tomorrow. I know somebody asked me when it closed.
It's March 18th. I read that somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did any of the original people that entered, did they alter their?
No, not
not yet.
Maybe you received some.
I emailed both candidates and asked if they wanted my feedback, and they said yes. So then I shared our kind of general feedback with them, and they both sounded, receptive to the feedback. And my impression was that they would submit. So if they don't, I can always follow up with them and see if they need more time or something. But because I did like both, what they submitted the first time.
Yeah.
So okay. Anybody else? Ian?
I've been attending the commissioner meetings on Thursdays to pay attention to kind of what's going on. And one of the interesting things that I've noted was there was an update from the Yamhill Transit District. Is that what it's called? And they were talking about, I guess, just what they're doing. And it was very interesting. I think we should start to pay attention to that. One of the reasons being is that we have one of the most popular routes in Yamhill County coming through our town. So I'm just mentioning that. That popped up on my radar this week as well.
They used last year. I think they came and presented.
They did.
I'm not sure when, but yeah, it would be nice if they could come back, because I know that they were talking about putting up temporary bus stops, and I see them all around. That might be good to have them come back and talk to us again.
I'll look into it.
Or they even asked us if we wanted to change the route somehow or add to the route. Did they ask us to consider that? Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, all right, do we have a motion to adjourn then? Liz?
I motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, we're adjourned. It's 8:55.
Liz, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Kid, I have a question
There's
for you.
one left if anyone's still hungry.
Right now. What he said.
Yeah.
After.
I got that.